I'd like to show you how easy it is to set up SyncToy to back up all of your important data, your documents, pictures, etc. Now, most of us have everything stored under their user folder, which is on the C drive under users and then in a folder based on your username. So, first thing we're going to do is plug in our external drive, and that drive, it's never been plugged in, so it asks us what we want to do with it. My choices are I could click on here and I can get some choices, and one of the choices is don't bother me. Down here, no action. But I actually like to go to the control panel and turn off autoplay totally for everything. So I have the classic shell here. You can get here other ways. I'm going to go to control panel, autoplay, and I'm going to say don't use autoplay at all. I never want to use it. You have a lot of other choices where you can use it for certain things and not for other things. You know, all of these other ones would have choices of what to do for each of them. But basically, when I plug something into the machine, I want to decide what to do then. I don't want Windows trying to help me out and popping something up. But many people like that, so it's up to you. Anyway, I'm going to turn off autoplay. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at what we have here. And we see that this drive shows up as the E drive. And Windows assigns a letter to everything, and usually a sequential letter based on when you plug it in. But for your external drives, I really recommend you assign them their own letter so that they're not reused. You know, the problem is that you may have something else attached later, and when you plug this in, the letter is going to change, and if it changes, then your SyncToy setup won't work. So let's show you how to change the letter. Now, I've called this drive black. It's a USB 1 terabyte. I put that name in, and we'll show you how to do that in another video. You also see I've given it an icon, which is a little black disk drive, and I'll show you how to do that too in that other video. But anyway, let's look at how to change the drive letter. It's really very simple. All you do is hold down the Windows key, hit the letter X, you get a menu like this, and you say disk management here. And when you say disk management, this comes up. It takes a minute to find everything. You're going to find the drive down here. So here's the drive. And if we right click on that drive, one of the choices is change drive letter and paths. So I would change the letter here. It currently is an E. You just click on change, and here's a pull down that shows you all of the free letters you can assign to it. I would pick a letter like X, Y, or Z. A and B used to be floppy drives. They're never used anymore on machines. So since it's a black drive, maybe we'll call it B for black or backup or whatever. But you pick a letter that's not going to be used normally, and then every time you plug in this drive, your Windows machine will realize it's seen it before, and it'll assign it that letter again. I picked A by accident. Let's pick B. And we say OK, and it says, well, it's not going to work sometimes, but we know it will, so we'll just say yes. And now that letter has a B drive. And here it's still complaining about what to do. I thought we turned that off. What happened here? Let's go back to autoplay. Did we not turn off autoplay? Control panel, autoplay, use autoplay, there must be a save or something that I didn't do. Yeah, here it is down here. Save. I failed. See how easy it is to fail? We all do it. Alright, we've changed the drive letter. We can close that other window. And now, notice here the black drive is letter B, and it's always going to be letter B. So, your external drive is attached. Now you're going to want to start SyncToy. Now, if you don't have SyncToy installed on your machine, I guess I need to make another video showing how to do that, because it's an old program that Microsoft gave us. It hasn't been changed since 2009, but still works wonderfully. The only issue is when you install it, you have to install some old runtime stuff. So we'll do a little quick video on how to do that. Anyway, SyncToy is on this machine. I'm going to go over here to the Start menu. I'm going to look for SyncToy in the search box. I could use Cortana as well. So, where is Sync? I don't see it yet. Should say, there it is, SyncToy version for the 64-bit machine. And here it goes. And the first time you ever run it, you're going to get some menus, some questions. I don't want to participate in their customer experience program, and it may also give you a warning that it might cause trouble sometimes and might not work in certain situations, but don't worry about those. If you haven't used it before, those warnings probably don't matter. So, SyncToy is all done with folder pairs. There's a left folder and a right folder. And the left folder is the one you want to back up, and you want to back up that folder and everything that's underneath that folder. And the right folder is where you want to put it, where the backup is going to go. So we'll create our folder pair. You notice that's really the only option we have here, because we don't have any folder pairs, so all we can do is create a new one. So you can browse to find that folder. So I could just pick my Ren folder, but let's go and let's actually figure out where this is and make sure we know exactly what we're doing. So we're going to go to the C drive. We're going to go down here to the users folder, and I have several users on this machine. This user is called Ren at Imaging Tips, and for some reason Microsoft gives it the folder associated with that user this weird name, and you really can't change that name. But that's the folder I want to back up. I want to back up that folder and everything underneath it. So we'll say OK. That's what we want to back up. Where do we want to put it? So we'll browse again, and we want to put it on this PC. We want to put it on the B drive. And here, because I've never done anything here, I'm going to create a new folder for that thing. So we're going to call this Ren, if I can spell my name, Imaging Tips, which is, I'm backing up the Ren at Imaging Tips user. So I'll say OK, and that's all there is to choosing the folder pair. We say next, and because this is a backup and we're not going to be changing the files on the backup drive by another computer, hopefully, we'll choose Echo. If we're backing up to a machine where you might also be changing the files on that machine, you want to change Synchronize. And over here it explains what each of these options are doing. And Contribute is one that just keeps adding junk to it and doesn't delete anything, and probably not something you want to use. And now we'll say next. And we got to name that folder pair. So we're going to call it Ren IT. That's just the name of the pair. You give it any name you want. And now we're pretty much done. However, since we're backing up the entire user, it includes a bunch of hidden stuff. and stuff that's going to be in use when we're backing up, and you can't back it up, and you'll get error messages if you're not careful. So we're going to change some options so it doesn't try to back up those hidden files. We're going to say exclude system files, and we have two choices here. The easiest way to do it is to exclude hidden files, and if you do that, that's all you need to do, and everything will be backed up. The only problem with that is if you use Faststone to do custom sorts creates some hidden files, and if you want those hidden files included in your backup, which you may not care about, if it loses the sort, if you need to go to the backup, you may not care if you've lost that sort. But if you do need to back up those as well, then you want to select which subfolders you want to back up, and you tell it to back up everything, but not back up the folder called, we'll just show you. So here you see that currently on this side we have all kinds of things. We have an app data folder. An app data folder, as you see, is really long and really involved. Well, we don't want to back that up. So we'll uncheck that. Notice it unchecked everything underneath. And now all of these other things we really do want to back up. Those are all folders that contain our data. So we're going to back up all of that stuff, and we'll say OK. So that's another choice. Since we've done that, we'll uncheck this, and then it'll back up our custom sorts as well. And that's it. We say OK. Now, every time you want to run SyncToy, my recommendation is you always preview first to see what it's going to back up. Now, in this case, it's not really going to matter. We know it's going to back up everything, so whether we run the preview or not doesn't matter, but we'll do it anyway just for the fun of it. And you see it's going to back up almost 600 files, and this shows us what it's going to back up. Now, I'll show you after we run this, and I'll hit run so it can go ahead and do that while I'm talking. The next time we're going to do it, when we do the preview, it's going to show us what it's going to back up, and it'll only back up things that have been changed, modified, new files, etc. But in the preview we can see, and if the preview shows us that it's going to delete hundreds of thousands of files, you probably don't want to run the backup. Something has gone wrong and you got to figure out what's going on, because deleting a bunch of stuff in your backup is not a good idea usually. So here we've got an error, and you only see red if there's a problem. So we're going to look at what the error is, and it says we can't read this one file that's in the folder, and that's a system file. We told it not to back up system files, but it didn't know it was one. So I guess if we do the backup this way, we're always going to see that error, and you can ignore it if that's the only one. I hate having a red mark. There's probably some way to stop this, but I don't really know what it is right at the moment. So we're gonna close this. We finished our backup, and we're fine. Now I'm going to pause this video. I'm going to change a few files and show you what it looks like if we preview the next time. Okay, it's a bit later. We've done some work on our computer, and now we're going to run SyncToy again to back up all the changes we've made, the new files we've created, etc. So I'm going to start SyncToy. Here it is on our list, and since we only have one folder pair, it has chosen that folder pair. If we had multiple ones, we'd have to pick the one we wanted, or we could say run all of them at once, and you can actually choose which pairs to include in all. But we're going to say preview, and it's going to see what it's going to do. And as you see, one of the things is in red. It's the overwrite. It says overwrite means it's updated that. You may also see deletes in red, and deletes and overwrites are especially important things to look at. Look at the deletes. If there are a lot of them, there's a real potential problem. Otherwise, make sure you think you've probably deleted those, and it'll then delete them in your backup. And the overwrite just means you change it, and so it's going to change the file in the backup, and that's all fine. And we see we've still got this NT user thing. We'll uncheck it so we don't get an error this time. You see it's got a bunch of new files. It's got some PDF files we downloaded. And if we change the width of these columns, we can see where they are. So those files are under Documents in the Financial folder, in the Bank of America folder. So those are electronic statements we downloaded and saved in those appropriate folders. Here's a install file we downloaded. It's in the Downloads folder. And here's a piece of junk in the Downloads folder. And it's something I really want to delete. So I could back it up now and then delete it. The next time we run the backup, it would delete it, or I could uncheck it. I'll just go ahead and back it up. We'll say run, and there we go. It's that fast to back up the new stuff. So let's go delete that before I forget about it. So that was in Downloads, and it's some piece of stuff that was a download that I aborted and it didn't get deleted. So we'll delete that. And just to show you what it's going to look like, we'll say preview again. And now you see that delete up there. And now when we run the backup, it's going to delete it. If I don't uncheck that, it's going to say error. So there it is, it's done. So that's it, SyncToy. It's really quite easy, and I really recommend you do it every day, or certainly at least every week. The only reason for doing it more frequently is that you won't have as much to look at, and you'll know which files you've probably modified that day. The other time to do it is if you do anything with pictures. You put a bunch of new pictures on your machine, that's a time to do it, right then, before you delete, or before you accidentally delete them or do something wrong. So that's it for SyncToy.